Welcome back to Consider This. Melisa, Sharaad and Ibrahim with you tonight. We're rounding up the heavy news week we've had. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the depreciation of the ringgit. So, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has actually said that the government is looking for ways to stop the depreciation of the ringgit, which has been a source of concern. He had been responding to all the conversations in the media reports that quoted the MA Research National Worry Index, saying that Malaysians are now most concerned about the economy and the cost of living and the impact to their pockets.
I did a very scientific poll to ask...
You mean that ironic?
No, this is a very scientific one. More than 50% says that they are concerned about money in their pocket, less than 2% says that they're concerned about politics, and everyone else is in between for other stuff. That tells you a lot of story in terms of what, even for me, right? I mean, if I were to ask you guys, what is the single most important thing that you can think of right now? I don't know about the two of you, but for me, it's still money in the pocket.
Of course.
And because of that, we have to look around, and we can't be too self-absorbed in our domestic, market, our own income. We have to look at the, the macroeconomics as well. And right now, Malaysia is in a bad shape. The trade war between China and US is ongoing. Vietnam and Indonesia is still aggressive in trying to find investors to come in. Malaysia, we've seen net cash outflow of foreign money coming out anywhere between $6 billion to $10 billion worth of foreign money being taken out of the country. All that is not good.
But the question is, how much of this can be laid at the feet of the current administration, and can they do anything about it? National governments are, especially governments that have economies that are fairly open to global trade and to all kinds of external factors, aren't really in a position to reshape their position in a kind of easy way. It's not about policy necessarily. They're long-term solutions, but can you do
Let me
anything
tell you
short-term?
something, Sharaad, you are so unique as an individual. you think logically, you're not emotive. Unfortunately, we only have one of you in this country.
Yeah.
The rest of the country is very emotional.
Illogical and emotive.
Yeah,
so the opposite of Sharaad.
No, right? Because look, let's face the facts. The reality is that people are going to blame somebody. There has to be a head to be chopped off when something bad happens, despite the fact that that person is not going to be at fault for it or not. And right now, the question is, who's going to be at fault for this dwindling, currency of ours, for this investors not coming in?
Let's look at the ringgit, the fall of the ringgit, right? I mean, a lot of oil-producing countries, currency value is often pegged to the value of crude, right? So when crude prices go up, there is some correlation, right? The question is that all in the mix for the ringgit story?
No.
Is it?
No,
what else
not.
goes in the mix? I'm not sure about the conversation about what's going on. And can the government, apart from spending lots of money buying up ringgit, what could be a sensible response to the ringgit depreciation?
So you need to look at two things for exports from Malaysia. Number one, crude oil. Crude palm oil, not oil petrol, but crude palm oil. Number two, the biggest one is actually E&E, or electronics and semiconductors. These two sectors have actually taken a hit and slowed down in exports over the past few months. And throughout the year, compared to last year, we're exporting lesser.
Because the global economy has slowed down.
Okay. So here is a person watching this TV show somewhere, in Klang Valley or whatever, Penang. Do they accept that argument that global, Trump, Xi Jinping, or dulu under BN wasn't like this, now under Pakatan it's like this, Pakatan's at fault?
Well, okay, so this is a question of communication. It goes back to, in fact, the advice been given to Pakatan Harapan over and over again to communicate better the economic story, and in fact to do it on a regular basis, to in fact appoint an economic spokesperson to address the economic story, because if this government fails or is reduced to a one-term government, it might be not because of its politics, but about
we have
the
a lot. We have
economics.
4 official spokespersons. We have the Ministry of Economic Affairs. We have MITI, Ministry of International Trade, Finance Minister. We also have the Domestic Consumer Affairs
We
Minister.
also have Kuttan Justin as well, right?
Yeah, we have ministers, but do we have spokesperson with a strong narrative to educate and to have everybody, in some sense, understand the particular dynamics that we are going through now? Because international trade dynamics are not something the Malaysian government can resolve. I mean, they can't bring Trump and Xi Jinping together and say, hey, please, a truce.
No, I acknowledge, I see eye to eye.
Yeah.
It's just that nobody's out there going to believe you.
We all agree. And
Yeah.
I think, listen, this is also part of the media has a role to play. If the government is failing to communicate this correctly, then it is the role of the media to then put this in the spotlight and story tell the current situation.
That's
not by supporting any party, but saying this is the situation right now. These are the external factors. This is the trade war happening. This is the global economy, and that is the role of what we have to do.
I agree. But that's why the issue of reform is difficult. Police reform, IPCMC, is going to be difficult. Parliamentary reform is going to be difficult. Electoral reform is going to be difficult because there are pressing matters at hand that needs to be resolved quick and fast. And yet we are still thinking about long-term reform that is going to reverberate down the generational timeline.
You could argue that it could go in tandem. There's nothing to stop an IPCMC.
It's going in tandem, and that's why people are upset. Tanjung Piai is the emblematic episode of that.
All right, gentlemen, before the fisticuffs come out, that's all the time we have on the show tonight. I'm Melisa Idris, with me Sharaad, Kuttan, and the host of Notepad with Ibrahim Sani, none other than Ibrahim Sani. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again on Monday at 10 p.m. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend. Good night.